Game Week 3 is here, and I'm sure a few of you guys are looking to make some transfers. So no matter what kind of moves you're looking at making this week, it's time for Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid. All of the data from today's video was taken from the Fantasy Football Hub Opta Stats tool. They've got an amazing database of everything you need to know when it comes to stats for FPL, and you can check it out, get 50% off your subscription right now using the link in the description, plus your money back if you don't win your mini league. There's plenty of other tools on there, including the AI transfer suggestions and the My Team tool, player comparison, and much more. So go check it out, link in the description. So if you're new to Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid, this is how it works. The video is split into two parts, the first of which we'll be having a look at those players you may already have in your team and which ones you should keep and which ones you should sell. After that, we'll be having a look at the players to replace them with, which players you should buy and which players may be traps to be avoided. Players will be tier listed with the best players at the top and the worst ones at the bottom. So we're going to start off with some forwards that you may already have in your FPL team, and certainly a player like Erling Haaland is not someone I'd be looking to remove. Certainly, as you know, selling someone like Haaland usually means quite a lot of reconstructing your team, moving things around a lot, shifting the money from one position to the other, and it's a big investment to make using multiple transfers to restructure your squad for removing a player who really isn't doing too badly. Of course, 2 goals in the opening game and missed a huge chance against Spurs as well. Maybe that would have changed some minds, but actually Haaland has been putting up some of the best attacking numbers of any player in the Premier League, and with Brighton up next, a team that hasn't exactly thrilled anyone so far this season with their results, maybe this is another good opportunity for Haaland to come in, make a bounce back from that Spurs game and get some more FPL points, even a potential captain option for Game Week 3. Chris Wood, I know some people are thinking of selling him after a disappointing blank in Game Week 2, but actually I think he's a player to buy. We will be revisiting him in the later section of the video when we look at players to buy, but West Ham up next at home. West Ham have been really poor so far this season, so definitely a player I'd be looking to keep. And I know Gyökeres doesn't have great fixtures coming up, Liverpool away next, but if you did bring him into your team in previous game weeks, I think I would be looking to stick with him even in some of these tougher ones. He is going to be on penalties, which is really useful. Opening his account for Arsenal with 2 goals against Leeds is really nice for him, and maybe he can continue that form. Watkins has been one of the most disappointing players in FPL so far this season, and against Crystal Palace, I'm not super hopeful for him in that game either, but the good fixtures are coming. Everton, Sunderland and Fulham after Game Week 3 look pretty nice, really, and he has indeed had 5 shots all in the box and 0.54 XG. That's not horrendous numbers, and it is showing that he is still shooting, so maybe a little unfortunate so far, but we want to see a bit more from Aston Villa. So Watkins, he is no longer a keep. He has drifted down into the monitor section for the video, and we do need to keep an eye on him, whether things do improve or not, but I'm not quite sure he is an absolute sell just yet. The monitor section, as always, guys, is about those players that you don't necessarily have to keep, but you should maybe think about keeping them. The lower they are down on the list, if you've got a real nice replacement in mind, then I would be more inclined to sell these kind of players. So they're not definite keeps, but again, I'm not sure I'm quite willing to let go of Watkins yet. One reason for that in particular is I would quite like to make maybe a Watkins to Ekitike move if Isak doesn't move to Liverpool, and we'll only have that information after Game Week 3. So it might be worth keeping him for 1 more week, see if Aston Villa improved, see if we get any more information, and then make some big Watkins related moves next week. That's certainly my thinking on that one. Of course, you're going to have penalties there as well. You never know when that's going to come off. Šeško on the bench again in Game Week 2, but I think in Game Week 3, we could see his first start for Manchester United, and if he does at home against Burnley, it could be pretty nice actually. So definitely a player to consider keeping, particularly if you are happy to take a little bit of a risk there. As for those West Ham attackers, yeah, pretty disappointing stuff for West Ham generally so far. Bowen, I would be maybe slightly more inclined to keep than someone like Fulkrug, but I definitely understand why people are selling these players, and they are drifting slowly closer and closer towards the sell kind of areas with some pretty mediocre fixtures coming up. Particularly Fulkrug, he did have a goal disallowed in Game Week 2, but after a poor performance in Game Week 1 and a half-time substitution in Game Week 2, I am a little bit worried about the West Ham striker. So he he is a player who is very close to being a sell. Maybe there are some other players who are higher priority sells, but Fulkrug has got to be drifting into these kind of areas. So now, those players who I really would be removing from my team right now, and it came out that actually Richarlison is going to be the main striker for Spurs right now. Yes, Thomas Frank has said that whilst Richarlison is playing the way he is, there is really no need to replace him, and Richarlison is going to be the main number 9, which is disappointing news for Solanke and Solanke owners. And if you do have him in your team, you're probably going to have to deal with him being on the bench a couple more times, which is quite disappointing. Not really what you want for a 7.4 million man. Beto also seeing himself out of the Everton starting 11 last game week, and I think maybe they were better for it as well. So Beto, super rotation risks now with Barry coming in as the Everton striker. Limited minutes here. I would be, again, a little worried about Beto. And Isak, of course, the situation has not changed on him. If you do still have him in your team, you cannot have a 10.4 million player who is not even in the Newcastle squad each game week. It is just not quite good enough. So we'll have to see whether he makes the move to Liverpool or elsewhere. He could even go elsewhere and see if he is going to be getting game time in the future. But we can't just wait around for that. You need to reinvest this money, I think. So that's the reason why Isak is still going to be a sell, despite a good fixture. We just need clarity on his situation. As for keeps, Bruno, a disappointing penalty miss, but a sign of what could have been. If he scored that penalty, he would have been on for a mega haul, because he was doing really well for the bonus points. He was also making plenty of defensive contributions. And certainly so far this season, Bruno has been one of the standout men for those defensive contribution points as well. He's already made 24 of those def cons. Really, really nice indeed. And despite the penalty miss, he does threaten a little bit outside of that as well, spending plenty of time advancing into the box, creating with his key passes, taking a lot of those set pieces as well, free kicks and corners, well, one side of the corners with Mbermo kind of on the other side of them. So I still think there's plenty of promise for Bruno Fernandes, and I think, you know, maybe it's a little lazy to say, you know, he hasn't scored enough points yet, or he's playing as a defensive midfielder, because when you watch Manchester United, I've watched both of the games in full for Manchester United so far this season, and I think Bruno is certainly showing some promise and has been underperforming, and you know, his points are going to come up very soon. You can see his expected points 10.83 so far this season. He's only scored 4, but it is showing that he is making the actions on the pitch that indicate that returns are coming very soon, and a home against Burnley is a good opportunity, really. We've got Brian Mbermo, also a player I would not be willing to sell this week if you do have him in your team. A home game against Burnley, again, is very nice, and Mbermo taking some of those corners as well. Maybe could have even got an assist from the corner, but it ended up being a own goal that we saw from Lenny Yoro against Fulham in game week 2. So maybe a little unlucky there for Mbermo owners. But yeah, again, another player showing a little bit of promise there. I do think I prefer Cunha generally, but if you already have Mbermo, no real reason to make a switch there. And I know a lot of people only just bought Reinders into their team, but a lot of people are actually selling Reinders, so I thought I would throw him in this section of the video. Definitely think he is a player to keep ahead of Brighton. Pretty disappointing in game week 2, but if you can once again play in a more advanced position in game week 3, there is definitely a possibility of that. Then a Brighton game is going to be quite nice. After that, maybe we can start to reassess, but it seems a little bit knee-jerk to be bringing Reinders in, selling him again. I think he deserves at least another chance to show if he can do exactly what he did in game week 1. Cole Palmer, definitely one to monitor. So the current prognosis on his injury is that it is just some muscle tightness. It was a pre-existing issue, and it was just a case that that Chelsea felt they didn't want to risk him in game week 2. So therefore he was on the bench. He was pulled out of the starting 11 just for safety, but there seems to be a lot of optimism that he will start in game week 3. So one to monitor throughout the week if he is available. I don't think he's a player we'd be super happy to sell. There's still lots to come from Palmer, I'm sure. We just need to see him back in the starting 11, and fingers crossed that will be the case. Of course, if he is unavailable for game week 3, we can certainly consider selling him there as well, but for now, very difficult to say. Dewsbury Hall, I wasn't super confident in him in game week 1, but I thought he had a good game in game week 2, and you can see his creative numbers here actually very nice. 0.73 expected assists so far, and for a 5 million man, that's actually not too bad. So I think that, again, he is another player showing a little bit of promise there. It was nice to see that he was remaining in the attacking midfield position, despite Grealish now coming into the team. So Everton kind of lined up with Grealish on the left and Jai on the right, and Dewsbury Hall maintained his position as the attacking midfielder in that Everton team, which is quite nice to see him in those advanced positions and creating. Also, he's going to be on those corners. We've already seen that. And Wolves away is a pretty good fixture. Wolves struggling so far this season. I think Everton can maybe have a chance here, even though they're playing away from home. Anderson wants to monitor with the signing of Douglas Luiz now confirmed for Nottingham Forest. It's a good fixture, so I don't think I'd be rushing Anderson out the door. But if Douglas Luiz does come in, start getting some minutes, then maybe we can start to worry a little bit about Anderson. But right now, I think he's fine to keep. If you have a nice replacement in mind, maybe you could sell Anderson, but certainly not a priority sell at all ahead of the West Ham game. And we've got Rodgers here as a monitor as well. Another player who has been pretty disappointing generally this season alongside Watkins. Aston Villa just not really clicking so far. Things don't look quite right with them. And as such, I think Rodgers has to be, moving closer and closer towards that sell category in this kind of tier list. So, yeah, definitely a player you could consider replacing, particularly if you have a really strong alternative replacement in mind. And hopefully we'll come up with some inspiration for you guys there. Sell Marmoush and Cherki, that rotation risk for the money you're paying for these guys is probably just not worth it. So, yeah, these players are already causing some problems for FPL managers. I think there's enough decent midfield options that we are going to talk about that can come in and replace these guys that just make these guys worth selling immediately. And Saka, he has, of course, guys, as of today, been announced that he is going to be out for 3 to 4 weeks. So, yeah, a lengthy spell on the sidelines for Saka. He is going to be out for game week 3 over the international break. Unlikely to be back for game week 4 against Nottingham Forest, and probably more likely to be back in maybe game week 5 or 6, where the fixtures are pretty difficult for him anyway. So I would say that Saka is just a straight up sell, reinvest that money. Unfortunate for those who bought him in last week for maybe the captaincy against Leeds, but yeah, time to move on from him because of that injury. Okay, defenders, and we're going to go through some of the most popular, most sold defenders in this week for game week 3. Aina is a popular sell. Definitely don't think you should be selling him, even though he did just get 1 point in game week 2, which was a little disappointing. West Ham next. I think in general, Nottingham Forest players are certainly not priority sells. We'll be looking to keep them. Reece James on the bench in game week 2, but I think he will probably come back into the starting 11 for game week 3 at home against Fulham. And if he does, I think that is a good opportunity for clean sheets. He's going to have some set piece share as well, which will be nice for him. And yeah, it's a pretty solid fixture there. So Reece James, understand some rotation risk, but he probably plays this week. If he didn't, he started game week 1, missed game week 2, maybe starts again game week 3, and that pattern is maybe going to continue. I guess we'll have to see. Saliba, pretty poor fixtures generally, but if you already have Arsenal defenders in your team, would not be selling them right now. I think Arsenal can keep a clean sheet against anyone. So even though, when we get to the buy section, you're not necessarily going to buy Arsenal defenders ahead of this run with Liverpool, City and Newcastle in the next 4. Well, you're not going to sell them either, I don't think. And we could apply the same to Gabriel. I'll put him slightly lower than Saliba because Saliba is just doing so much better for defensive contributions than Gabriel. We kind of expected that based on last season's data. So yeah, Gabriel maybe slightly below Saliba, but both of these players I would be edging towards keeping. Konsa missed game week 2, but he'll be back in game week 3 for the Crystal Palace at home game. Not super confident for Aston Villa in this game, but with the good fixtures, I don't think you need to rush Konsa out. I think he is worth another go. We could even see Aston Villa improve with Konsa back in the starting 11. We'll have to wait and see about that. De Kuyper, maybe a player that is edging towards becoming a sell. We've got difficult fixtures over the next 4. Could find some alternative options maybe that are maybe more playable, because I'm not sure De Kuyper is actually playable at all over the next 4. You could maybe play him against Bournemouth, but he's not been as creative as attacking as maybe we'd hoped. Maybe not a huge amount of defensive contributions either. So yeah, could be a player to let go here. And Wan-Bissaka, West Ham just so poor at the moment. He has to be edging towards the sell category. But really, the players we want to sell are going to be those kind of injury risk players, those expensive players that we cannot afford to just hold on the bench maybe. So Ballard, first of all, yes, unlucky to get that injury in game week 2, but he is an injury prone player, and so it's not completely unexpected, but generally 4.6 million for a Sunderland defender, I think it's just too much to pay. Maybe people got a little excited in game week 1 seeing Sunderland, but now they've lost against Burnley. Maybe we can kind of, use this information to say, yes, Sunderland, they could be very good, but in the most likely scenario, these newly promoted teams are going to struggle a little bit for clean sheets week on week. And, we will probably want to move away from those Sunderland, more expensive defenders. 4 million is fine to spend, but 4.6, a little bit too much. So a nice player to remove given the injury issue there as well. Nori, if he is going to be injured, he is going to have to be a sell as well. He's not looking super likely to play in game week 3. Indeed, game week 4 may even come too soon for him as well. So if you're looking for, some players to sell, Nori, I think, is a good candidate for that, particularly if you're looking to free up some money. And Frimpong, with his injury, is another player you're probably still going to want to sell. I don't think that much money is worth holding on the bench. And there are some really nice other defenders you could potentially go for, which we will, of course, speak about. But if you're enjoying this video so far, guys, please do drop a like. It massively helps out the channel. We really do appreciate all the love shown on these videos. And do feel free to subscribe if you want those buy, sell, keep, avoid transfer tips in your YouTube feeds every single week. Hit that subscribe button, massively appreciated. Right, let's talk about some players to buy, and we're going to start off in the forward section with Chris Wood. So certainly, if you feel you can cover Wood in game week 4, you can maybe play one of your bench options in game week 4, then certainly the next 4 game weeks look phenomenal for Nottingham Forest. And Chris Wood, penalty taker, already showing his class in game week 1. He's playing against West Ham next, who as we mentioned, are really struggling right now. This is going to be a really nice pickup and a potential for some nice points here against West Ham. And indeed, game week 5 against Burnley, game week 6 against Sunderland. There's plenty of opportunities for Chris Wood to do what he does best, and that is to score from low XG chances. It's just what he does. Richarlison, I think, is coming into the fray as a nice, cheaper forward option. Just 6.6 million. Really nice fixtures continue for the likes of Spurs. And if Richarlison has now been kind of confirmed as the main starting striker for Spurs, and that's going to be very nice at that kind of value. 6.6 for a starting striker from one of the better attacking teams in the Premier League is really good value for money. Really nice indeed. I mean, if people were willing to pay 7.5 for Solanke, I think 6.6 for Richarlison is pretty reasonable. I imagine we will see Richarlison on penalties as well, while Solanke is not in the starting 11. And we've got Joao Pedro, of course, is going to be a buy after his performance in game week 2 there. Really, really nice there. Maybe a little fortunate with some of his FPL returns. I can't lie. I don't know if it's 100% sustainable. Some of those attacking returns coming from corners, for example. I don't think he's going to get something like this every week, but we know he's a brilliant player. He is on the score sheets. He's doing what we hoped he would do. He is not suddenly an infinitely better option than Wood or Richarlison. These players are still very good. He's worth considering buying, though, for sure, if you're looking for someone new. Haaland, one to monitor. Yeah, again, it's about that restructuring. Buying Haaland will require a lot of restructuring in your team. It is possible. If you've got 2 free transfers, this is something you really want to do, absolutely go for it. But I would say game week 6 is maybe a slightly better jumping on point for Haaland. But if Saka's going to be injured, if Palmer is out, then maybe you're going to have enough free budget to actually make a double change and bring Haaland in. So have to wait and see on that one, guys. There is definitely possibility, but I wouldn't say he's a priority buy right now. Gyökeres, not a priority buy either, despite his game week 2 heroics. Liverpool away is just not the greatest jumping on point for him. If you already have Gyökeres, as we mentioned before, great. But if you're looking to bring him in, maybe I would wait until these tough fixtures, Liverpool, Forest, City, Newcastle, 4 really tough fixtures for an attacker. I would maybe just wait these ones out and then maybe look to hop on him after that. Šeško, really risky one. If you think he's going to start against Burnley, brilliant. Be aware of game week 4 and 5. Not the best of fixtures there, though. But, this is definitely, again, another possibility. Trying to chase those really nice fixtures, plan ahead to these kind of the high ceiling kind of transfers, kind of like what we saw with Gyökeres last week as a high ceiling transfer, which obviously worked out very well. Could Šeško come in and do a similar thing with United? There's a possibility. And Mateta, disappointing so far. I really thought he would do a little bit better so far this season, but he has not. bit of a poor performance in game week 2. Aston Villa are way up next. Aston Villa are pretty poor right now, so I still think Mateta is in a monitor. He's not an avoid for this game week, but you can maybe give it one more week, wait for that Sunderland at home game before jumping in on Mateta if he does improve a little bit. But 0.45 XG so far this season, it is not nothing. It is still something. Ollie Watkins would not be looking to buy him this week if you don't have him already. I think with any Aston Villa players, really, if you don't already have them in your team, I think just wait and see and hope that they improve a little bit, because it's not been good enough so far, particularly in the attacking area. So that's why Watkins is in an avoid. And I'm saying this, guys, as someone who has Ollie Watkins in their FPL team. He literally is in my team. If I didn't have him already, I would not be buying him this week. That's not to say he's a sell. Again, two parts of the video. The first part is about the players you already have. This part is about the players that you don't have. So if you don't have Watkins, don't think he's a buy. Ekitike, a similar situation, would not look to buy him this week. But game week 4, I think, is a real possibility to buy him. And again, it's going to be a case of, does Isak sign for Liverpool? If Isak doesn't sign for Liverpool, then game week 4 is the perfect time to buy Ekitike. But if we can get past game week 3, where we have a difficult fixture against Arsenal, one of the better defenses in the league, and we'll get all of the information about whether Isak is going to be a Liverpool player or not, that is going to be everything we need to know before investing in Ekitike or not. So hold off one more week is what I would say on him, and he will be moving up the table in very due course, depending on certain other things. Mayenda, another player I think I would look to avoid. Yeah, I'm still not fully convinced on him. Brentford could be an interesting fixture, I will admit that. But after that, the fixtures are pretty average. I think that's just probably better, more reliable forwards to go for right now. So not quite convinced on Mayenda. Obviously, Mark Gue getting his first minutes in a Sunderland shirt over the weekend as well. So maybe there is some rotation risk with Mayenda as well, but that remains to be seen. Midfielders, and this is where it's at, guys. There's a lot of really nice midfield options. So much so, it was difficult for me to narrow down to 3 buys, but we have done it regardless. We've still got plenty of monitors who I think are worth considering as well for your teams. But my 3 favorite midfielders to buy ahead of this week, and hopefully this is backed up by some good stuff here, includes Semenyo. Now, Semenyo has been putting up some of the best underlying numbers among all midfielders in FPL so far. 1.92 XG, which is really high. A couple of key passes there as well. We've seen him with 3 returns in 2 game weeks. I think he was actually really unlucky not to score in game week 2 as well. Had one insanely good chance where basically hit the crossbar from very, very short range. That could have been a goal on a different day. And he had another big chance there as well. So, yeah, really impressive stuff for Semenyo so far. Maybe Spurs away is not the perfect jumping on point, but the data really is supporting Semenyo. Watching Semenyo being that talisman of this Bournemouth team is, yeah, really encouraging stuff. So got to be considered. Ismail Assar is also going to be in this area. I think particularly for those of you guys thinking of a free hit in game week 6, I would be more than willing to pick up the Crystal Palace man. Now, although Aston Villa looks like a tough fixture in game week 3 on paper, it's actually Sar's favourite fixture to play, his favourite opponent. And actually Sar, he's got, hang on, let me get this exact number here. So 10 attacking returns in 6 games against Aston Villa across his career. And that includes a couple of games playing for Watford as well. In fact, if we look at the 3 games he started against Aston Villa last season, he actually got 5 goals and 2 assists. So, yeah. 3 starts against Aston Villa, 7 attacking returns. That is insane. And it really is because Sarr is a really nice counter-attacking player, and Aston Villa playing with a high line. Sarr is just perfectly suited to this fixture. So it is Sarr's specialist fixture, even though the underlying numbers are not great from Sarr. Didn't really expect too much from him against Forest, but he did manage to score in that game. But he's certainly got to be a player to consider in game week 3. This is his fixture. So, yeah. After that, Sunderland, West Ham, really nice fixtures there. If you're free hitting in game week 6 anyway, that's going to be no problem. But at the same time, Sarr has already proven that he can do his stuff, do the business against Liverpool, as he proved in the Community Shield, where he thrived in that game as well. So really nice little run for Sarr here. I think he is a really nice 6.5 million midfielder to pick up, and probably the player I'm looking at the most as someone who is planning on that game week 6 free hit. Just don't be, you know, put off by that Aston Villa fixture. Aston Villa playing poor right now. SARS specialist fixture. This could be really nice for him. It really, really could. And we're going to put Bruno Fernandes in the buy section as well. Yeah, there's going to be people disappointing with Bruno after his missing of that penalty. But I think he's shown enough that he is well worth that 9 million against Burnley. I think I'm even considering captaining him for this week. So yeah, a really, really nice upside pick that you could potentially go for. Honestly, could have had a haul in Game Week 2. It didn't happen. That doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future. There's still plenty of opportunities for him going into the future. And then after that, there's some other pretty nice options here as well. So Cunha, I thought he looked really, really bright for a second game week in a row, really. I know Man United have maybe struggled to score a little bit, and none of their players have actually scored a goal yet. Only an own goal to show for their first 2 fixtures, but it's a great fixture. Cunha with some really nice big chances in Game Week 2. You can see 0.78 XG already. That's really, really high numbers. We would expect him to have scored by now, or getting closer to scoring by now. But yeah, maybe this is the game where he blows up and does something incredible. So let's see what happens there. But I like the pick. Gordon, really nice next run of fixtures. Leeds, Wolves, Bournemouth. Again, another player maybe worth considering for those on a free hit in Game Week 6. If Gordon continues to play as a striker, particularly if Isak leaves, then that's going to be really nice, really good for him as well. A little differential as well. Not too many people picking Gordon, but I think he could be brilliant. Kudus, definitely one to consider. Not really offering too much in terms of goal threat. Just 2 shots and 0.06 XG so far. But his creative numbers are pretty decent here. You can see 6 key passes. That is as much as Bruno Fernandes for reference. So you know that's going to be pretty high there. And he's already got 2 assists with plenty of crosses that he seems to be making for Spurs. Bournemouth at home, pretty decent fixture if you were looking to, well, if you're an attacker, essentially. So yeah, quite like the look of this one for Kudus. But maybe I'd like to see a bit more goal threat from him. And that's why he is slightly lower down on the list than maybe some of the other guys. And we're going to throw Grealish in here as well. A pretty impressive start for him with the 2 assists. Actually putting up better creative numbers than Kudus technically. Particularly if we consider the minutes each player has played. Wolves up next. Then Aston Villa, Liverpool and West Ham. So there are still some pretty nice fixtures in here for Grealish. But maybe it's a little premature on him. I'm not sure. Have we seen enough of him? Do we trust him quite yet? There's certainly been some very, very positive signs, and he's certainly a player to consider buying for your team. But the players I would not be considering buying for Game Week 3 are Brennan Johnson. Obviously, Spurs are in the market for a new midfielder, a new attacker. And as such, a lot of Spurs fans are telling me that Johnson will probably be the man to make way and go to the bench. So even though Johnson has done brilliantly so far with the 2 goals, there is some concern that maybe he could be out of the team if Spurs do sign a new player. So it could be worth holding off, again, 1 more week before going for Johnson and just having a little bit of patience on this one. I think Kudus at 6.6 is probably slightly better value than Johnson at 7 million. It's a lot of money to be spending on a player who may not even be starting in a couple of weeks' time. So I think we need more information on this one. But again, just passing on the message from Spurs fans. Don't shoot the messenger here, guys. Eza is another player I think to avoid. I say this as an Arsenal fan. I say this as a player, as a guy who is so excited by Eza. But again, patience needed here. The next fixture is against Liverpool. I think it will be too soon for Eza to start in that game. Despite the Saka injury, I think we will see Madueke line up on the right-hand side of the attack. And we'll probably see Martinelli Trossard on the left with Eza maybe coming in as a substitute. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe the only exception for that is maybe if Ødegaard is out, he's got a shoulder injury, then maybe Eza comes and starts straight away. But I think it's a little soon. He'll only have been at the club for about a week by the time Arsenal play Liverpool. So, you know, managers don't typically like to throw their new signings straight in at the deep end. So I think maybe Game Week 4 is a more realistic time for Eza to make his first game for Arsenal. So a little wait and see. Maybe wait till the fixtures get a little better. Maybe wait to see where Eze plays, how he fits into the Arsenal setup before jumping on him. But I get it, guys. I'm excited too. I get it. Caicedo, I think one to avoid. Not because he's a bad pick or anything like that. You know, scoring a goal. You know, he will score the occasional goal. 1 or 2 per season. Maybe 3 or 4. But I think the Chelsea spots are so valuable right now. But I'd be looking more at Sanchez and Cucurella, maybe some of the other defenders. Palmer, Neto, Enzo, and obviously Joao Pedro. All of these players are above Caicedo, maybe in the pecking order for Chelsea FPL picks. And for that reason, I think if you use up one of your slots on Caicedo, you could regret it later down the line if you were looking to pick up other Chelsea players. So that's why he's going to go there. I think there are other 5.5 million midfielders who can do a similar job to Caicedo, to be fair. You know, like Anderson, for example, at Nottingham Forest is going to be fine as long as he continues to play. Right, defenders to buy. Cucurella, like the look of him a lot, actually. Yeah, he's doing really well. Some attacking threat there, which is nice. Chelsea looking good, looking pretty good for clean sheets as well, generally speaking. I know they did concede a wonder goal to Lucas Paquetá in game week 2, but that's not going to happen every week. Fixtures continues to be good for Chelsea, like the look of this pick. Pedro Porro, another player, really nice attacking potential that we've seen so far. Decent, not decent, but not too bad on defensive contributions either. It's not been amazing, but it could be a lot worse here. So yeah, definitely another player that I'm kind of interested in. 2 clean sheets out of 2 so far. Spurs looking good in that regard. Set pieces. Lots to love about Pedro Porro. Like this pick. Livramento, after the Liverpool game, I think he is going to be a really nice pickup for those nice fixtures. Again, maybe free hitters in game week 6 are maybe considering Livramento and the Newcastle defenders a little bit more, but I think there is going to be some promise here. For 5 million, it's not such a bad price. If you're looking to go a bit cheaper, I would say Tosin is probably the 4.5 million defender I like. I expect him to play most games now for Chelsea, if not all, and is a bit of a differential there as well. Cheap, great fixtures, why not? Daniel Munoz, fantastic first name, by the way, Munoz. Aston Villa away, maybe not the best jumping on point, but if Aston Villa are playing poor, then you could take the risk on Munoz for this fixture. But again, game week 6 free hitters, Munoz could be a really nice friend of yours. Obviously, already in the attacking returns with the assist in game week 2 there. So could he continue that good form? Can we get some more clean sheets from Crystal Palace? I really hope so. I think they are one of the better defenses in the Premier League right now, and we know Munoz has that phenomenal attacking potential. I'd like to see a bit more shooting from him as well, but I'm sure that will change very soon. Dorgu looks really interesting at 4.5 as well. Burnley at home, nice fixture. Pretty tough after that in game week 4 and 5, but definitely one to consider. He's looking very attacking indeed. And Van de Ven, I'm putting him slightly lower down on the monitor section. I think Bournemouth might be a little tough of an entry point here for him if Bournemouth are going to continue to attack in the way that they have been. And some concerns that Spurs are looking to sign a new centre-back as well, which may mean Van de Ven is going to be at some rotation risk. So might be worth holding off on Van de Ven for one more week before bringing him in. That's why he's in the monitor. And avoid those Arsenal defenders. Yeah, of course, I was going to say this, guys. Liverpool, Man City and Newcastle in the next 4. These are not good fixtures for Arsenal at all. And even though I'm sure Arsenal could potentially keep some clean sheets here, is it worth jumping in on these guys? Particularly, a player like Timber did amazing. A freak score in game week 2. Incredible stuff. And congratulations to everyone who already owns him. But if you don't, and you're only thinking about bringing him in now, you've missed the enormous haul. He probably will never score that many points in a single FPL week again as in his entire career. That is more than likely what's going to happen because it's such an incredible, unique score that he got. But yeah, the fixtures are poor. There is still some rotation risk. Remember, Jurrien Timber didn't even start in game week 1. It was Ben White playing at right back. And Calafiori, similar. Going to be some rotation risk there because Lewis Skelly is waiting to start his game at left back. That is going to happen at some point. So between the small amount of rotation risk, the fact that I don't think their attacking returns are sustainable, and the very poor fixtures, as an Arsenal fan, I'm saying I'm not interested in these players. I'm really not. Maybe I'm a pessimistic Arsenal fan. You never know. But yeah, I'm not full of confidence here. I'm really not. So they're both going to be avoids for me. And Matty Cash, I actually put him as a potential buy in game week 2. Maybe I went a little early on that one. I do want to apologize. I thought he maybe could be the 4.5 million defender to go for. He's been on some set pieces, looked good for defensive contributions. But game week 2 came along and Aston Villa just looked bad, man. They looked really poor. So I think we really do need to hold off on buying any Aston Villa players until we can see them improve, see them do well. And so far that's not happened. So maybe Cash can come good. I think there is a good chance he will become a nice FPL asset. But right now it is just very difficult to make an argument for any Aston Villa player. But yeah, things can change very quickly in football. We'll have to wait and see. And quickly on goalkeepers, don't recommend goalkeeper transfers in almost any scenario, but I don't judge those who do want to make goalkeeper transfers. But if you do have Sells or Sanchez, would definitely be looking to keep them. If I am going to sell a goalkeeper, it's more than likely going to be someone like Edison, someone like Areola, whose minutes I am not confident in. If you're looking to buy a new goalkeeper, Sells looks quite nice to go for. Pickford as well, even though the penalty save is maybe a bit of a freak. It's not really. Pickford saves loads of penalties, but we know he's a very solid goalkeeper to go for. If you are looking for a new goalkeeper, I don't think I'd pick up Raya this week just because of the fixtures. I think if you are looking for an Arsenal goalkeeper, maybe just waiting 4 weeks might be the way to go about that one. And Trafford, of course, maybe there is going to be some rotation risk there with Edison. He did make a mistake in game week 2, so which did lead to a goal there. So maybe that's going to mean Edison is going to come back into the starting 11. I don't know. And for that reason, I don't think we can really recommend any Man City goalkeepers right now. Well, I think that's pretty much every player I want to talk about today. If I missed any players out, let me know. Leave the player's name in the comment section and I'll give them a rating, a buy, sell, keep, or avoid. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. And check out Fantasy Football Hub. Link in the description to get access to all of the Opta stats. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.